um, from one of the national papers in the UK. And they were asking us, what we felt was going on here, what were the crop formations about, which we said, we felt that it was a message. It was a really important message for the human race to realise that something's happening and that we need to wake up to this massive change that's coming. And this on the June the 29th, the Saturday of 1996, this newspaper came out, referring to some of the things that we'd said. A little bit of scepticism, as you always get with this subject, but at that time it wasn't too bad. But again, they were at least acknowledging that some of these crop formations were appearing. Now, after the media people had left, we stayed in the formation looking around, and while we were there, one of these military helicopters turned up. This is a Westland Gazelle, same as that. It's not that actual craft, but just to give you an idea. And I think you've seen this as well. It's important that people realise that the military are keeping a very strong eye on what's going on with the formations. This craft came in so close that we were actually quite afraid. It was very intimidating and it was harassing the people that were in the formation. It was so close that we could actually see the faces of the pilots in the window, and they were looking really sort of cold as they stared down at us. And I know of several other researchers that this has happened to as well. And this has been going on, this was 96, and it's been going on up to last year and the year before, 2007, 2008 season. It's a regular occurrence. In fact, one of the researchers, she was a lady who was one of the sort of main figures for setting up conferences in the early to mid-90s, brought a lot of the big speakers to the UK. And she'd been in that very formation that I just showed you. And she had just left. She was actually gone back to her car on that hill that I mentioned, and she was filming the formation from above when suddenly she heard this thunderous roar, which sounded basically like a train approaching, but there are no trains around there. When suddenly one of these Gazelle helicopters literally came up from below the hill below her, right in front of her, and then moved towards her. And it was so close that the blades were spinning around. She thought she was actually going to be hit by the blades. And it was knocking up loads of detritus and twigs and leaves and things like that. We've seen this on film. Once again, you can see the pilots are just looking. They know what they're doing. So she screamed. She threw the camera on the passenger seat of the car, started the car up, and drove across the road. Could have had an accident. She didn't look. And as she drove down the hill, she was chased by the helicopter, which buzzed the car back and forward as she drove down this hill. Now, eventually then the helicopter peeled away and she drove on. Now, this affected her so much that to this day, she's actually afraid of dragonflies, the ones that sort of fly with that erratic motion, because of the effect that it had on her. But I just highlight this so you're aware that there's a lot going on here. Crop formations are an amazing thing, but there's also this other side where clearly the military know that something's unusual. There's often been film footage of helicopters chasing balls of light, which are quite a common feature with crop formations as well. So, they know that this is not necessarily just hoaxing as we would be led to believe. Now, this is a beautiful formation that appeared on the 7th of July 1996, just below Stonehenge. You can see up at the top there, you've got the circle of Stonehenge. Below that is the busy A303 road. So you can see the size of the vehicles. On the right-hand side, you've got a truck. And then this formation here, which is about 900 feet in length with 193 circles. Now, what is interesting about this, not only was it a beautiful geometry, it's based on a fractal or the golden mean. You see it within nature, this sort of image. But there are several witnesses that acknowledge that formation appeared within certainly a 20 or 30 minute time frame. There were some security guards that were doing their rounds at Stonehenge, and you can sort of look from there down to that field below. And they said that there was nothing there when they went round initially. When they came back about 30 minutes later and they looked down, they could see this huge formation, and yet they hadn't seen anything happen. There was also the pilot of a light aircraft that was flying people around the stones. He was showing people Stonehenge, and just up the road is Avebury Stone Circle. And he flew them around, went back at a local airfield, refueled, and came back with some more people to show them the stones about 20 minutes later. And when he got there, this huge formation was there, Now, he said he knows full well that wasn't there, 20 minutes before. So once again, this acknowledges the fact that the formations are appearing really quickly, probably in a matter of seconds. And in fact, the people that surveyed that formation, it took them at least 4 hours just to see how the crop was flowing and things like that. So again, it acknowledges they appear really quickly. Now, many of the formations, particularly genuine formations, of course, have very powerful energies associated with them. In fact, over the years, that one, it's known as the Julia set, probably had one of the most powerful of all. This is a painting that my wife did, actually, from the things that she was seeing in that formation, these sort of vortexes or plumes of energy with these spinning balls of light within it. Now, it's interesting that over the years, as people have seen that particular image, many people have said that, that's exactly what I saw. I saw the same thing as well. So it was an incredibly powerful formation. You can see Stonehenge on the top right there. What is interesting as well is with this one, it was on one of the global major ley lines that runs through Stonehenge. So there was an additional energy, I think, with this. Many of the formations are on ley lines, but this one is an incredibly powerful one. Now, this is stepping up. About a week later, in July of 1996, then this formation appeared. It's a huge formation. It's about 1,000 feet across from left to right, and it's actually going through 2 fields, as you can see. It's just down the road from the Avebury Stone Circle, and at a place called Windmill Hill. Now, this was stepping this up from the single spiral. It was now becoming this sort of this triple spiral here, as it was known. Now, if you can see, there are just within one of the, where is it, in here, somewhere there, there's a couple of people in that, you can see that. So you can see how big these formations are, they're absolutely massive. If you look at the first 3 circles around the central circle, from above, it creates a perfect equilateral triangle. And then you look at the next 3 and the next 3 and so on and so forth until you get the last 3 at the 1,000 feet across. You end up with this spiraling vortex of equilateral triangles getting bigger or smaller depending on how you look at it. And this is where the formations are starting to have this sort of hidden geometry going beyond just the 2D plane. Now, this beautiful formation appeared in 1999. And the reason I show this specifically is just because of the complexity of the crop. When you look at this, it's called the basket for obvious reasons, but you see how the crop has actually been woven. And this is what I want to highlight, the fact that when you go into the formations, they're not just flattened crop. The genuine ones are actually flowing. They're sort of like liquid, as I said earlier, sometimes about a foot off the ground. In areas, there'll be areas where 2 areas come together and it's like water. It sort of splashes across each other, and sometimes you'll get like a plaiting like the back of the hair. In this case, as you can see, the crop is actually a woven pattern, and in the large circles as well, it's got that sort of flow too. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the only photographs of this formation because it was when the farmer became aware of it, he went specifically in to cut that formation out, which is quite sad. But it is magnificent, that one. Then this formation appeared. This was in 2000 at a place called Avebury Truslow, again about just a few miles outside of the Avebury Stone Circle in Wiltshire. This is known as the magnetic field for obvious reasons, and very much like when we were at school, we used to have a piece of paper with iron filings on it, and you'd put a magnet underneath, and you'd get the radial lines of the magnetic field showing, very much like this. But of course, this is just diamonds and squares of standing crop. Now, what is really interesting, this appeared in June of 2000. Following year, in early 2001, Graham Birtle, who used to be the UK editor of UFO magazine, he was contacted by a guy called Graham Innes, who was involved with scientists researching electrogravitics, anti-grav, and advanced propulsion systems. And he was told that scientists at NASA and elsewhere had determined that the Earth's magnetic field was imminently due to flip. And this was based on comparable satellite data from 1980 through to 2000.